Joining us now on the TSN MMA show, it's Kamaru Usman, a man who many feel could be a future champion at welterweight. I'm sure if you asked the man himself, he would agree. Agreed, Kamaru?
Yes, absolutely. I will be the champion soon to come.
Do you have like a timetable?
Of course.
Do you have like a goal, I want to be champion by this date, or I want to fight for a championship by this date?
By the end of 2018.
Wow, you think that soon? I mean, the problem that you have is, and it's something that we've discussed when I've interviewed you in person at events, is that it's hard for people, I guess, that are ranked above you to want to sign up to fight people that are ranked below them, and that seems to be a systemic problem with the UFC rankings.
Absolutely, but this is the thing is, after this fight, I'm no longer gonna make the mistake of taking a fight because that's what is offered to me. I won't do that anymore. If these guys can sit here and say, we're not going to fight that guy because he's a hard fight and he's too hard of a fight and he's ranked below me, then why should I continue to say, oh, I'm going to fight this guy that's unranked, but it's a tough guy? I won't do it. I will give the UFC, it's gonna be on the UFC now to make those matchups happen, to make those guys fight me. How am I supposed to move up in the ladder if I can't fight higher ranked opponents?
Well, last we spoke in Michigan, you told me you'd been offered a fight with Colby Covington. What ended up happening there? You ended up being matched up with Emil Meck again.
Yeah, I was offered to fight with Colby Covington, and he turned it down. He said no, he wanted to wait, or he wanted Tyron Woodley. That's what the point where he thought he could get that fight. But unfortunately, Tyron said no. Tyron's undergoing surgery to fix his shoulder. And with that being said, Colby's is waiting. He's sitting there waiting. And stylistically, it doesn't really make sense for Colby to fight any of the other guys because those guys don't really test him. There's still, I've said before, there's specialists still left in our division. And one of the last ones was Damian Maia. Damian Maia is a ground specialist. That's the one place he's at the biggest threat. And so Colby tried to pick off those guys. But there's the only guy that's that well-rounded is me. And so that's the fight to make. You can't say that I haven't proven it. I was in the rankings before Colby Covington. I'm the only guy that has been in the rankings for almost 2 years now, but has declined in rankings and haven't lost the fight. Has won impressively in each fight. So what sense does that make? Colby Covington fights a guy that's ranked below me, but then jumps in the rankings ahead of me. Darren Till fights one guy, jumps in the rankings ahead of me. Rafael Dos Anjos fights a guy that's ranked below me, but jumps in the rankings ahead of me. That makes absolutely no sense. And then when I ask to fight these guys, they all say no.
Yeah, because they've jumped the line.
Yes. So it sucks, but I believe after this fight, if I don't get I'm going to be looking at a top 5 fight. I'm not rushing into anything if it doesn't propel me to the spot where I should be at, which is looking in the top 5 by the end of the year, looking to fight for that title.
Do you feel you need to talk a little bit more to get that? It seems like that's the way guys like Colby's getting it, and they're just being a little bit more vocal. Is that something you see doing? If they give you the mic at the end of this fight, do you plan on calling specific names?
It's not something that I'm not going to go out of character.
Yeah.
Excuse me. That's not me. I'm not going to go out of my character to try to put on a fake persona, because I don't do this just because I want to be famous and have a bunch of money. Yeah, the money doesn't hurt, but I don't do this because of that. I do this because of competition. I've put in that much time and effort to try to be the best at this, and I want to show that I am the best at it. And so all that talking and all the spectacles and all that, I'm not going to go out of my way to have to do that. But the one thing that I will be vocal about my abilities and the work that I've put in, and which I have been. Look at my last 3-4 fights. I called out Damian Maia with him sitting less than 20 feet away from me. And he turned down, he said no. I called out Dong Young Kim. That fight never happened. I called out Nia Magny. Didn't happen. I called out RDA. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's not like these guys don't know who I am. They know who I am, but they're just like, I'll take an easier fight that's going to actually help me propel me rather than lose into a guy that's going to just kill my momentum.
So do you think there's a systemic problem here with the rankings? Like, do you think that if a guy turns down a fight, it should become public information so that people that are doing the rankings are more educated on what they're looking at in terms of the big picture of things?
Absolutely. And this is the problem with that is for guys to turn down fights that the issue with it, there's nothing wrong with turning down a fight. There's nothing wrong with someone like myself, saying no to Emil Meck. Like, do you agree that makes sense? Why would I fight a guy that's 1-0 in the U.S., has one fight in the UFC, not ranked in the top 15, not even top 20? Like, why would I do that? That makes no sense. I'm on a win streak. I want to continue to climb, and I want to get to the title. So why should I fight Meck? That makes sense for me to say no to that fight. But what doesn't make sense is when a guy is coming off of 2 losses, there's certain guys in divisions, or you're coming off of a loss, and then they ask you to fight this guy, and you're saying no because it's a hard fight. I don't want to take another loss. And you try to systematically find a fight that's going to build you back up to that top. That's what needs to stop, and that's what needs to be public information.
So I got a question for you. Now that you do like commentary as well, that's what I do. I'm a color commentator for Glory Kickboxing, and you actually work with one of my boys, Showdown Joe.
Yeah, Showdown Joe's the man.
How does it change, man? Like, because for me now, like again, I was actively competing, stepped out to do the color side, but I've changed my mindset a little bit, seeing the production side and the entertainment value in things and calling fights. Has that changed the direction you kind of look at your career a bit?
In a sense, a little bit, yes, it does, because as you mentioned, now you get to see the production side of things.
Yeah.
To see how things come together. When you're just fighting, you don't get to see that. You're there focused on that goal. If that's your opponent, you're there to wrap up, go in there and fight, and that's it. But now being able to see the back end of it, see the production side, you see what they want as well and what they need from you for them to do their job better. And so, yeah, it does help a little bit.
Yeah, because even with me, like
also,
when I'd never say anything on the mic. I'm like you. I wanted my skill to talk, everything. But now when being sitting on the production side, when I see guys get the mic and they're saying things like, I'll fight anyone the UFC wants to, or the Glory wants to put in front of me. I'm like, man, that's your time. You got to build yourself. You got to promote yourself. You like, this is the opportunity. So I've seen sides where it's like, I got to jump on these opportunities more. I should have, it's late now, but those kind of opportunities I should have taken advantage more of.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes those things like that more apparent to you. And I understand that more. And as I mentioned, if you go back and look at my last 3 fights, I've been vocal. It's not that I've been silent. I've been vocal, which is why I do get the little notoriety that I get, is because I am being vocal. I am calling out these guys, but these guys are saying no to me. So it's not a lack of me not wanting to fight or me not wanting to I want the tough guys. I want to move up that ladder. But it's a matter of them saying no to me after I've called them out. That's the issue here. But yeah, I think being on the production side, then you get to see how you can maximize that opportunity and what that does for you and in your career as far as helping that out. So yeah, I love being on that side of it as well. I have a great partner that kind of helps carry me, Showdown Joe, and helps prepare me for something which I hope I have a future in after my professional career.
What are you finding is some of the challenges doing it? What's your biggest challenge with it?
What's the biggest challenge is at the end of the day, it's learning how to perform when you're on the hot seat as well.
Yeah, I find the opens are pretty tough. When the camera's on and you got to perform, I find the opens are one of the hardest.
Exactly, which is, of course, as a fighter, I've worked on getting better at that aspect of it, because you train in the gym all day. You can be a killer in the gym.
Yep.
But then you see those guys, when they step out there to perform in front of thousands of fans, they can't do it. And so, vice versa, the same thing on the production side. You can be great at practicing in front of people or just, in your house. But once it's something that camera does. Once that camera is in your face,
Oh yeah.
It's like it neutralizes your brain and what
Yeah, you get
you
froze.
were thinking of
Yeah.
what you want.
I used to memorize everything, man. I was like, what am I doing, man? Because I was so nervous. But now it's cool. Now it's been 2 years for me. So
Yeah, my first couple of times I try to do that, memorize like the opens to the shows,
yeah.
what I wanted to say about the guys. But the best thing is to do your research. I figured and I've learned is to do your research and then just let it flow. Get comfortable and just let it flow. And that's working the best so far for me.
Yeah, just being yourself, man. That's the first thing they said. Don't be a commentator, just be yourself. And that was a big help for me.
Absolutely.
All right, Kamaru, well, we have to wrap it up. Unfortunately, we're out of time with you here. One last thing. How many Usmans are we going to see in the UFC by the end of this year?
How many what?
Usmans. I heard there's a heavyweight on the horizon that we might see in the UFC by the end of the year.
I don't know if by the end of the year, but that depends on his transition and God willing how he prepares and how he excels, because you can't put a time on how fast or how slow someone can pick up the sport. I want to make sure that he is ready for everything when he gets in there, because this is not one and done. This is for the takeover for as long as he wants to reign. And so he needs to be prepared on all levels. So when he steps in there, you can't throw anything at him that he hasn't seen and he has not be prepared for. So we're going to take our time to make sure that we're ready for that. But, man, you've already seen